As we reported earlier, the American Civil Liberties Union says the Trump administration has continued to separate migrant children from their parents at the southwest U.S. border. Amna Nawaz has our report.
That's right, Judy. Now, Lee Galernt is the lead attorney for the American Civil Liberties Union. He's representing the separated families and can tell us more about today's court filing. Lee Galernt, welcome back to the NewsHour. Let's start with that number. The exact number is 911 children you've identified in this court filing as having been separated from their families between June 28th of last year and June 29th of this year. Start with that. How did you arrive at that number? What's that based on?
That's right. And so that's not a number that we discovered on our own. We would have no way of doing that. Those are numbers the court ordered the government to give us. And the latest numbers we got from the government were 911. We get an Excel spreadsheet that shows the separations, and they've been going up monthly. And the really shocking thing about this is that the government is claiming they're doing this for the children's benefit because the parents have a criminal history. What we expected to see from the government were very serious abuses against the children themselves. What it turns out is they're separating children for things as minor as the parent's old traffic offense. In one case it says misdemeanor nonviolent theft for $5 or disorderly conduct or a DUI. I mean, shocking that they're doing this and for such minor crimes. And what we've also found out is that the children are younger than even the first time last summer. Little babies and toddlers are being separated on the pretext that the parents are a danger to them.
So I want to dig into those a little bit more, Lee, but let's start with what the acting Secretary of Homeland Security has said in public. He has testified that, of course, separations do continue, but only in extraordinarily rare circumstances and only, as you mentioned, when it is in the best interest of the child, when the child is in some way at risk. And we know that there are cases out there. I have seen them myself, well-documented cases of child smuggling or abuse or neglect. How many of those 911 cases would you say fall under that category?
Yeah, so there's a lot in there. Let me pull it apart because I think that the administration is really being misleading in those statements. To begin with, you can look at it percentage-wise or you can look at how many children are being separated. We now know over 900 since the injunction, and these are little children. Even one impermissible separation would be too much. So I'll let the public judge for themselves whether 900 little children being separated after the court's injunction is too much. The second thing I want to point out is it's apples and oranges to talk about trafficking here. These are cases where the government admits it's the parent but says we still need to separate because of danger. Yet when we look at the government's reasons, we're seeing things like traffic offenses, misdemeanor thefts, disorderly conduct. And the last point I want to stress is that we told the court from day one, if the child is genuinely in danger, there's objective reason to believe the child is in danger, we of course want you to separate the parent and child. That's not what's going on. We've had independent experts look at these cases and say at most there's a handful of cases that might warrant further investigation, that overwhelmingly these are cases that should never even been considered for separation. I mean, we don't separate a parent and child because the parent has a disorderly conduct offense in the past. Imagine how many American parents would lose their children if those are the kind of offenses that would warrant you losing your child.
But I want to pick up on what you said there about a handful of cases, you say, based on the experts who've reviewed them, think that those could have been in the best interest of the child. And just overall, for some context, those 911 separations happened at the same time that over 430,000 people crossed the southern border. That's just for some context. Tell me, though, what we know about those children. How many of them are still in U.S. government custody? How many of them have been reunited with families? Do we know?
We don't know, and that's one of the troubling things. I think that's one of the parts of this story that needs to be told, is that we are not getting the information. The service providers for the children are not getting the information. In many cases, the children's facilities are not getting the information. So we don't know how many have been reunified. We know that many have not, most have not, and some parents have even been deported without their children. So what we are going to be asking the court for is to clarify the standards by which you can separate a child, and also that there be more information flow, because we need to know when these separations occur, where the parent is. Often the child will be dumped into a facility and the service providers won't even be told that the parent is in the U.S., much less the reason for the separation or where the child was placed.
A lot of questions still to be answered then.
Where the parent was placed, excuse me.
Lee Galernt of the ACLU, thank you very much for being with us tonight.
Thank you for having me.